Green light's on. Alright. Let's see if we'll get some names in the chat. Ow. I gave this an EQ, right? Pretty sure I did.
9 years later.
Yep, I did. Alright. Okay. This is the process where it either goes fast or it goes really slow, depending on the complexity of the entire thing. Which I think for some of these it's going to be a little complex, but not too complex. Especially during the scenes where the characters are telling like their stories to Flora. Oh, no wonder I'm so far back. Alright, let's see what we can do. Alright, so I need to figure out how long I want this to go for. Because
9 years later.
9 years later. 9 years later. 9 years later. Oh yeah, it goes from the ending part of the last one. Actually, we could just do this. So just push that out a little bit more. Okay. So I need to imagine the visual going on here.
9 years later.
Wait, why did it still keep that? Well, I need to keep that anyway. Oh, I see what's going on here. I see what's going on here. How the fuck did that happen? And here we go again. I can't see the chat if anybody's there. Alright. Can we please? Oh my god. Yeah. Mark's endless streamed yesterday. Not his fault though. Alright. Let's see. Oh my lord. It's 2 days! I really need to clean out my subscriptions a little bit. Okay. How long until that starts? About 5 seconds. Okay, so the transition into the scene.
Nine years later.
Yep.
Sophomore year in Pony.
Okay, then it comes in with like all the cheddar in the class or lunchroom. So we need to cut there. I get a more accurate zoom in. Fade in. Alright, so I need a sound effect here. Itchy, 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 itchy. This is the sometimes easiest process and sometimes the hardest. And it has been a minute, so some of these sound effects I may not even remember the volume of. I know this one is loud, for sure. Okay, where would that be? I think that is under my drive. USB drive. And it's under the YouTube folder. What's it called? Crowd talking or something like that? Crowd panic, crowd talking. Okay. So 9 years later. It's probably about right here-ish. Yeah, that looks like the right amount. Okay, so we need to automate it. Volume. give it a little bit of a fade-in effect. Okay, push this out a little bit more.
Nine years later.
Okay. Way too fast. This be way, way more.
9 years later.
Okay. So. Okay. We're already on a tricky slope here, so turn that down.
Nine years later.
Okay, it's a little too fast. So I need to push that out. I need to get to where it's more accurate to me. Alright, let's see.
9 years later.
Okay. Now we need to do this again.
9 years later.
Too fast. Just gotta get
9
this in the
years
right
later.
spot. Oh, jeez. Okay. Push this back a little bit.
9 years later.
There we go. Okay. But the noise is too... The sound is way too high, so we're going to turn it down a lot.
9 years later. Sophomore year in Ponyville.
Okay, way too fast. God, you can tell I'm a little rusty.
9 years later. Sophomore year in Ponyville High School had been a drag for Flora, having been a prime target for the mean mares.
Okay. Once again, too loud. It's all just a process of being very, very careful. What the fuck did I do? Oh, for fuck's sake. Please and thank you. Okay. I may have to add a limiter here. Or not a limiter, a thingamajiggy. This. A balancer. Come on. Could be in a butt. Yeah, this had to do a freaking update before I even started. So, this could be a little bit slow. Like a butt. Alright.
9 years later. Sophomore year in Ponyville High School had been a drag for Flora, having been a prime target for the mean mares of the establishment. She was a quiet and contempt student, unlike the majority of the plethora of adolescents on the curvature of learning whatever the establishment had to offer. That wasn't what the mean mares liked. They considered mares like Flora bait. It had been hard ever since that horrible night when Darwin Fleur had finally received his just desserts from his own daughter.
Oh my god, are we really gonna do this today? Please don't.
Having been the very night that Flora had lost every fiber of her innocence. Lily had been very lucky that the injury she'd received was nothing that the doctors couldn't have fixed. She had been smart not to remove the knife, Otherwise, the end result would have not been so fortunate in Lily's favor. Potentially fatal, seeing the blade had been the only thing keeping large amounts of blood from her damaged organs from bleeding out internally. There had been a brief investigation by the police on the assumption of it having been a case of murder, but thanks to Flora giving clarification on the cause of Darwin's death being
Sparrow's gonna lose his mind. This is normal, by the way. This is not anything new.
Case of murder, but thanks to Flora giving clarification on the cause of Darwin's death being self-defense, every suspicion of it being murderous cause was dropped. Lily and Flora had decided to see this whole endeavor to Darwin's funeral to avoid the police suspecting them of any further malevolent actions, seeing they had planned to move after the fact. Their original living place had carried only bad memories, and they had wanted it to start anew. So, they left, leaving behind any trace of Darwin Flair's existence. However, Flora had not recovered, still traumatized at the reasoning of her father's death being by her own hooves. Even as she grew from a filly into a mare, she carried that same burden, despite what her therapist or mother told her. She knew her father was a terrible monster who had not only violated her, but also her mother. But the fact remained that he was still her father, and children are not supposed to kill their own blood. That was the main reason why she couldn't escape her personal limbo. She thought herself a murderer of her own family. Lily had tried her best to persuade her daughter that she was not a killer, but nothing ever helped or changed Flora's mind.
Give me 1 minute,
She
Philomena.
remained in that limbo for 9 long years, up until the day her personal state of immobile growth had finally shattered. That day was a bright, sunny one in the cafeteria of Ponyville High School, a rectangular room that smelled of the day's serving. The serving was hay burgers with a side of fries and a drink to wash it down. A long line of pubescent adolescents crowded the entrance, but Flora was already seated on the farthest table of the cafeteria, slowly burgers with a side of fries and a drink to wash it down. A long line of pubescent adolescents crowded the entrance, but Flora was already seated on the farthest table of the cafeteria, slowly gnawing away at her barely tasty food on her plate. The hay rested between the 2 buns was brittle and tough to chew, so Flora had decided to settle her stomach with the fries. A gloss adorned her hoof after each bite, the fries being greasy and slightly soggy. Despite the clear health hazard, she just stomached them, her stomach grumbling as an objection to skip lunch. In the midst of her isolated self-company, something broke the quiet, another plate joining her on the opposite side of the table. Flora suspected it to be one of her everyday bullies, there to taunt her and throw food in her face, but upon the pony speaking, she knew that wasn't the case.
Okay.
Hi.
Another plate joining her. Okay, what can I even do here? That's a good question. How do you mix an Audacity? Audacity is not good for mixing. Audacity is very... what's the word? Tedious. Because essentially what you have to do is you have to put every single sound effect and everything on separate files in separate places. Like, you have to line it up. You have to, line it up with the top layer. Like, you have to put together a fucking puzzle. Similar to this, but this is a lot more better, in my opinion.
Objection to skip lunch.
But that's essentially how, like, if you want to know how to mix in Audacity, I suggest going back to, like, my old streams from when I was still actually using Audacity for streaming. That way you can actually learn. Alright. Another plate joining her.
Her stomach with the fries. A gloss adorned, the fries being greasy and slightly soggy, grumbling as an objection to skip lunch. Something broke the quiet. Another plate joining her on the opposite side of the table.
Another play joining her on the opposite side of the table. So I think I can mix that with two different, like, sound effects. I think I've got an idea. So for that, I need to go. Excuse me. For that, what's the name of that file? Is that on my USB drive? I believe it is. Sample. Paper crumbling. Glass plate, like a dinner plate. I know I have a sound effect for that somewhere. Glass, maybe? Wipe squeaks, clean sound. No, that's not it. Sound effect. Sound effect, blood splatter, lever pull. Creaking wood, metal locker. I will need that, but not for this one specifically. I know I have this sound effect, I just don't know where. Let's just kind of look. Bench grinder, bass. Bench grinder. Breaking glass, that's not what I'm looking for. Clinking glasses sound effect, that's not what I'm looking for. Collapse, coins clinging. Crackling fireplace. Crowd talking. No. Eating dinner table sounds, that's it. Exactly what I need. That's years of sound effects all in one place. Okay, need to...
Plate joining her on the opposite side of the table. Flora suspected it to be one of her everyday bullies, here to taunt her and throw food in her face. But upon the pony speaking, she knew that wasn't the case.
Hi.
Okay, hold on.
Hi.
Okay, that works.
But upon the pony speaking, she knew that wasn't the case.
I can make that little work. We're just gonna have to kind of combine and be very careful here. Okay, cut that. And then we can do something like... cut this down. Whoops. Cut that down, then cut this down. Do something like this. But I need to figure out where I am.
The table. Flora suspected it to be one of her everyday broke, the quiet. Another plate joining.
Another plate joint. Whoa.
Another plate joining her on the opposite side of the table.
That works.
Flora suspected it to be one of her everyday bullies, here to taunt her and throw food in her face. But upon the pony speaking, she knew that wasn't the case.
Hi.
This voice was different, subtle, and monotone, but carried a hint of care underneath. Laura just kept her head low and didn't answer, hoping for the pony to just move to another table. They didn't, and persisted instead.
You're Flora, right? The one who doesn't talk to any pony?
Laura continued to just stay quiet, still hoping for this stranger to lose interest and go elsewhere. They didn't, and continued to persist.
I see how it is. It's okay. I know what you've been through and how badly it fucks you up.
Flora's eyes widened, both at the carefree F-bomb and comment on knowing what she'd been through. How could she know? She was just a random stranger.
Let me guess. You've either had a terrible dad or mom, or you've done something that you can't let go of because you think it's your fault.
Now Flora was getting scared. How the hell was she guessing everything related to her past? Was she a time traveler or mind reader that could see her darkest thoughts? What was happening? Laura thought about getting up and leaving, but part of her wanted to hear what this mystery mare had to say. Curiosity was a dangerous thing, but what could a teenager do to her in front of hundreds of other ponies? She raised her head slowly to meet the mystery mare's gaze, meeting them almost instantly.
I see I've hit the nail on the head.
The mare said, her features being that of a usual goth. She was a unicorn with a ghost white body and a long black mane with a single purple stripe adorning it, her left eye being cloaked by it. Her visible eye was a dark violet, and her body was adorned with several goth-style attire such as spiked bracelets, a necklace with a skull as its main feature, and a black t-shirt with rips and tears. Her expression spoke little emotion, her one eye half shut and lips neutral, neither frowning or smiling. Laura was intimidated, but she just went with it, keeping her eyes on the mare.
What do you want?
Oh.
She speaks. Good.
Okay, so that means I'm gonna have to do... I'm gonna have to probably turn down that crowd speaking sound effect. I can barely hear Flora.
What do you want?
She speaks. Good. And here I was thinking you wouldn't even speak. That shows there's definitely some hope for you after all.
Much better.
Flora was beyond confused and seconds from getting up and running, but something kept her seated, too intrigued at this strange mare.
I don't understand. Who are you? What do you want from me?
Flicking her mane from her covered eye, she responded with something Flora would have never expected.
Do you notice anything about this eye?
The mare questioned, pointing to her left eye. Flora looked over the eye carefully, and up until Jane Doe averted her gaze elsewhere, did Flora realize the difference. Her left eye didn't move with the other one. Flora gasped at the realization, and upon discovering the difference, it was enough for Flora to see that she wasn't lying and actually had good intentions.
It doesn't move.
That's because it isn't real, and it's my reminder of what my parents did to me as a foal, and what I had to do in
Okay, let me listen back to that one more time.
It doesn't move.
I don't know if you can actually hear that on open audio or not. I think I'd have to go to my stream or something like that to hear. So I'm going to do just that. Because I cannot literally tell. Hello. My channel, thank you. My channel, please, thank you. Okay. Headphone off. Shut up. Headphone off. Okay, listen.
It doesn't move.
Okay, listen. I can hear that. I can hear that. That's not even on max audio too, so yeah, I can hear that. I can hear that plain as day. So, it's fine.
It doesn't move.
That's because it isn't real, and it's my reminder of what my parents did to me as a foal, and what I had to do in defense to save myself from further damage.
Flora was shocked, having not expected this to be how her day would go, as much as how relevant this mare's case was to her past. She just kept listening as the mystery mare covered her left eye again.
My real parents were alcoholics and drug addicts, which you should know is not a good combination. When I was only 5,
Okay. I want to do a little effect here. So let's fade these guys out. All right.
my real parents were alcoholics and drug addicts, which you should know is not a good combination.
As
Hang
to
on.
her past. She just kept listening as the mystery mare covered her left eye again.
My real parents were alcoholics and drug addicts, which you should know is not a good combination.
Okay. I need to put that at a more better spot. Let's see.
As to her past. She just kept listening.
My real parents were alcoholics and drug addicts, which you should know is not a good combination. When I was only 5,
All right. So it needs to like start right here and go out about right here.
Die again.
my real parents were alcoholics and drug addicts, which you should know is not a good combination. When I was only 5, I had caught my parents.
Something like that. I don't dare use that one because of the fact that it is copyright, but it's also a cover. What fits here?
When I was only 5, I had caught my parents doing the thing while as drunk as a sailor and as high as a kite. Being curious, I'd ask them what they were doing, and, well, my father let me up on the bed to explain. However, it was a trap, and as he held me, my mother took a beer bottle to my face, destroying my left eye in the process. Unbelievably, the hit didn't manage to knock me out cold, and I managed to get away and hide. I couldn't reach the doorknobs at the time, so I couldn't get out of the house to yell for help, and just hid somewhere I felt safe. It worked, but only briefly, and considering I was starting to lose lots of blood, I knew I had to get out and find help. Due to the blood loss and trauma, I don't remember the majority of how I found a way, but I did, and managed to find a window to crawl through. Once I was out, I just remember screaming in the streets for help, and one of the neighbors found me. My parents were arrested on the spot, seeing they were far too out of it to even pass the breathalyzer or speak full sentences. Upon analysis of my wounds and skull, I'd been lucky to even live. My skull was fractured, my eye was beyond saving, and had I not been found any sooner, I probably would have died from the blood loss. My parents were put in prison for child abuse, and now I live with my grandma. But for the longest time, and unknown reason, I blamed myself for their imprisonment. It was mainly because I was too young to understand, but just like you, I couldn't let it go. I knew they had tried to kill me that night, but they were still my parents, and for some reason, I blamed myself for what happened to them. That is, up until I started making friends again and learned better. Friends I'd like you to meet, Flora.
Okay.
Flora was stunned at this mare's tale of survival. Having brief
Okay. Okay. So what all do I need? I I need a glass shattering sound effect.
Being curious, I'd ask them what they were doing, and, well, My father let me up on the bed to explain. However, it was a trap, and as he held me, my mother took a beer bottle to my face, destroying my left eye in the process.
Okay, so what I need to do here is I need to write down the middle, you dipstick. Okay. So right down the middle, push out, and I need two sound effects here. I need a scream and I need a glass shattering sound effect, which I do have a glass shattering effect somewhere. I think I just barely saw it. Glass wipes, grades, no. Shattering, breaking. That's it. Okay. So that's on 5, so I need to turn that down, and I need to give it a reverb for like a very dramatic effect. Reverb. Shit. Let's try something like that. See if we can maybe work with something like that. What? Oh, you ignorant bastard. Stop. Okay, now I gotta figure out which one it is. First one works fine. First one is fine. Cut.
Die in the process.
Okay. It's not severe enough, so I need to turn up that reverb.
Die in the process.
There we go. Okay. So what I need to do is I need to... Okay, took a beer bottle to my head.
And as he held me, my mother took a beer bottle to my face, destroying my left eye in the process.
Okay. Then I need a scream, which I do have. So, it's this one, right? Oh God, which one? It's this one, right? Okay, yeah, this one's going down because I know this thing has ear raped me quite a few times. Okay, give it a reverb. I guess we could go default here. About 30-ish%. We'll just go with something like that. All right, now I gotta figure out which scream I want. Oh, Lord. Please don't hear me.
Unbelievably, the hit didn't manage to knock me out cold.
Okay. I know I have one that's longer than that. Yeah, I know I have a longer one than that. Why is it so shortened? It's this one. Let's see what we got here. Okay, that's terrible. These are like some old vintage scream sounds.
The hit didn't manage to knock me out cold, and I managed to get away and hide. I couldn't reach the doorknobs at the time, so I couldn't get out of the house to yell for help, and just hid somewhere I felt safe. It worked, but only briefly, and considering I was starting to lose lots of blood, I knew I had to get out and find help. Due to the blood loss and trauma, I don't remember the majority of how I found a way, but I did.
Hold on. It's between two.
Trauma, don't remember the blood loss and trauma, don't remember.
I think that the last one is actually the best one. Because this would hurt. This wouldn't be a light injury. This would hurt like a motherfucker. Alright, let's try this one, see what we get. So it would be like right up on contact. So like right here somewhere.
Face, destroying my left eye in the process.
Needs to be a little bit more severe than that. Okay. Needs to sound more childish too.
Face, destroying my left eye in the process.
Why is it so weak?
Face, destroying my left eye in the process.
Okay. Let me see if I can't make that sound just a little bit more childish. So that means that the pitch would have to be higher.
Face, destroying my left eye in the process.
Better? Okay.
Unbelievably, the hit didn't manage to knock me out cold, and I managed to get away and hide. I couldn't reach the doorknobs at the time, so I couldn't get out of the house to yell for help, and just hid somewhere I felt safe. It worked, but only briefly, and considering I was starting to lose lots of blood, I knew I had to get out and find help. Due to the blood loss and trauma, I don't remember the majority of how I found a way, but I did, and managed to find a window to crawl through. Once I was out, I just remember screaming in the streets for help, and one of the neighbors found me. My parents were arrested on the spot, seeing they were far too out of it to even pass the breathalyzer or speak full sentences. Upon analysis of my wounds and skull, I'd been lucky to even live. My skull was fractured, my eye was beyond saving, and had I not been found any sooner, I probably would have died from the blood loss. My parents were put in prison for child abuse, and now I live with my grandma. But for the longest time, and unknown reason, I blamed myself for their imprisonment. It was mainly because I was too young to understand, but just like you, I couldn't let it go. I knew they had tried to kill me that night, but they were still my parents. And for some reason, I blamed myself for what happened to them. That is, up until I started making friends again and learned better. Friends I'd like you to meet, Flora.
Flora was stunned at this mare's tale of survival, having brief flashbacks of the night her father attempted to kill her. She could see what she was trying to say now, but she was scared to confront her past again.
What makes you so sure you can help me? We're two different ponies with different paths. You may have been able to recover, but what if I can't?
You're right, but you'll never know if you can until you try. Trying is the first step to recovery, Flora. However, you have to take those steps on your own.
The conversation.
Okay, hang on. There's something I want to try.
What makes you so sure you can help me? We're two different ponies with different paths. You may have been able to recover, but what if I can't?
Those are fine, but this is way too low. So probably what I'm gonna have to do here is I'm gonna have to go something like this. Unique as a sample, I guess? Yeah. I knew some of these were going to be pretty low, so that's why I was kind of... Okay, so this would be on 7. Just need to give that a little bit of a boost.
What makes you so sure you can help me?
There we go.
We're two different ponies with different paths.
Much better.
You may have been able to recover, but what if I can't?
You're right, but you'll never know if you can until you try. Trying is the first step to recovery, Flora. However, you have to take those steps on your own.
The conversation was interrupted by the school bell,
Okay.
signaling lunch.
School bell. I do have a school bell sound effect, but where? That's a good question. 7. School bell? Let's go with this one. Excuse me.
Interrupted by the school bell.
Gee, money.
Interrupted by the school bell, signaling lunch hour was over. The pony stood up from her seat, relaying one last.
Okay, it needs a little bit of something. Oh, oops. That's Flora, stupid. Okay, that's 100. Did I put on the wrong track? I did. I need to put that on 8. Not 9, 8. Thank you. There we go.
Interrupted by the school bell, signaling lunch hour was over. The pony stood up from her seat, relaying one last
Okay. Let's give that just a little tiny bit of a reverb. Alright. Let's say about 50%.
Interrupted by the school bell, signaling lunch hour was over. The pony stood up from her seat, relaying one last.
Okay. Then as the school bell comes in, we're going to have that crowd effect again. So for that, we're going to go something like this. Give that another thing. Hopefully this doesn't do
Interrupted
anything.
by the school bell, signaling lunch hour was over. The pony stood up from her seat.
Okay, needs to go way faster than that.
Interrupted by the school bell, signaling lunch hour was over. The pony stood up from her.
Okay, too slow.
Interrupted by the school bell, signaling lunch hour was over. The pony interrupted by the school bell, signaling lunch hour was over. The pony stood up from
There
her
we
seat,
go.
relaying one last comment before returning to class.
Name's Sarah, by the way. Come by the football field after school if you want to take my offer. Otherwise, continue living in that shell for the rest of your life.
With that said, Sarah walked off and Flora was left to her thoughts. Flora had no idea how to feel about what had just happened. Was this her opening to a second chance, or some cruel prank arranged by those bitch mares? The only way to find out was to try. Could she even attempt to try? She had until the final school bell to decide.
Alright. Now I need to get the fade-ins and all that stuff taken care of. I think the next thing that comes is the school bell. Basically the same exact effects that we're using right now. Just a little different. Alright, let's see. We need to give this a... Yep.
Interrupted by the school bell, signaling lunch hour was over. The pony stood up from her seat, relaying one last comment before returning to class.
Okay. Something like that, maybe.
Interrupted by the school bell, signaling lunch hour out was to try. Could she even attempt to try? She had until the final school bell to decide.
Faster. So bring that back more. Okay, now down here. Volume. Something like that. Just go something like that.
Out was to try. Could she even attempt to try? She had until the final school bell to decide.
There we go. Okay. Oh, I can actually just push this out because of the fact of what comes next. So let's see. This can be cut. Okay, now I need the school bell again. Need to figure out where I'm going first, though.
Out was to try. Could she even attempt to decide?
Okay. Bring... Not that. That's crowd tucking. Bring this back.
Side.
That was really 12 minutes long. Wow. Why is there a cut there? Oh, I see. Wait, why is there still sound there? I think there needs to be a pause. So maybe like somewhere right here and just kind of get it to the top volume.
The last bell rang loudly as Flora exited her last social studies class, making her way through the crowded halls to her locker. After successfully entering loudly as Flora exited her last social studies class, making her way through the crowded halls to her locker. After successfully entering the right combination, making...
Okay, we need the hooves. Am I on 9? Yeah. I am on 9. Okay, let's simple. Let's see, MLP sound effects. That would be this one. That's run. I need a walk. That's the one. Okay. First things first. Limiter.
Making her way through the crowded halls to her locker.
Okay. That seems okay on basis. Now I just need a little bit of a reverb.
Making her way through the crowded halls to her locker. After successfully entering the right combination, she opens the worn steel door.
She opened the worn steel door. Okay, I do have a sound effect for that. Oh lord, so many sound effects. The sound effects are gonna really calm down once we get outside. Alright. Metal. Metal impact. Locker. That's the one. Oh shit, hang on. Forgot to turn down the volume. Yeah, this one's loud.
She opens the worn steel door and stored away her heavy baggage weighing down her back in her saddlebags. To her, it was the equivalent of lifting an anvil from her aching back, but even she knew that wasn't true, and just shook it off as she continued.
Okay. Shook it off. Shake it off. Okay, let's see what we got here.
She opens the worn steel door and stored away her heavy baggage weighing down her back in her saddlebags. To her, it was the equivalent of lifting an anvil from her aching back, but even she knew that.
This is gonna be a little tricky.
She opens the worn steel door and stored away her heavy baggage weighing down her back in her saddlebags. To her, she opens the worn steel door and stored away her heavy baggage weighing down her. She opens the worn steel door and stored.
Okay. So, what the hell was I doing there?
She opens the worn steel door and stored away her heavy baggage weighing down her back.
Okay, there we go. Great, now that song's stuck in my head. Hey, Esther. Alright, what am I doing? I am looking for the shut sound effect now. Right. Is this it?
Hard.
Hello, how you doing there? Okay, let me listen to that from...
And hit the floor hard. She could argue
Okay, that's a little...
her peers. She had made it about 20 yards when she suddenly lost her balance and hit the floor hard.
That's fine, that doesn't really shake you up that bad. How am I doing? Or how am I? I'm okay, I guess you could say. Okay, now you find where she shuts it.
The right combination, she opens the worn steel door and stored away her heavy baggage weighing down her back in her saddlebags. To her, it was the equivalent of lifting an anvil from her aching back, but even she knew that wasn't true, and just shook it off as she continued her locker business. Once her practical anvils were settled in their steel home, she shut the locker and turned towards her usual quick route she used to escape the ocean of students she called her peers. The right combination, She opens the worn steel door and stored away her heavy baggage weighing...
Okay, I can hear that at the end of that. I don't know what that is, but I don't like it. Alright, let's...
The right combination. She opens the worn steel door and stored away her heavy baggage weighing down her back in her saddlebags. Were settled in their steel home. She shut the locker and turned towards her usual quick route she used to escape the ocean of students she called her peers. She had made it about 20 yards when she suddenly lost her balance and hit the floor hard. Had made it about 20 yards.
She had made it about 20 yards. So yeah, we'll just walk.
Had made it about 20 yards when she suddenly lost her balance and hit the floor hard. She could already taste her metallic life supply upon her attempt to get back. Had made it about 20 yards when she suddenly lost her balance and hit the floor hard. She could already taste her metallic life supply upon her attempt to get back to her hooves, knowing full well who had tripped her on purpose.
Oops. I'm so sorry. I thought you were some kind of freak.
Callie Stirrup, aka Flora's personal torturer. Her sassy and sarcastic tone was enough to clarify it, as much as the light pink fur and gold horseshoes adorning her body. Upon getting up, Flora felt the desire to give the bitch a taste of her own medicine, but stopped herself for two reasons. One, she was the better mare. Two, she had a bloody nose from her fall. It was really hard to not deck Callie across her muzzle for Flora, but she had no interest in detention or paying hospital bills.
What's the matter, freak? Too much of a wuss to fight back? Maybe you don't understand pony language. Well, read my lips. Don't trot in my territory and maybe you won't get punished.
You're so lucky. I have great self-control. Otherwise, you'd be the one in the hospital with more than just a broken muscle.
Okay. Had a feeling this wasn't strong enough.
Here.
Right there. Alright, let's get this and this and turn the volume up a little bit. Here, there, turn the intensity of the reverb up. Making it as a sample. It's fucking hot. I'm on 10, so I need to go to 11. Okay. Let's up the intensity of the reverb and just see if that fixes it, because I can barely hear the reverb on it. Venue, that's what I want. Okay, let's go about 50%.
You're so lucky. I have great self-control. Otherwise, you'd be the one in the hospital with more than just a broken muscle.
Flora spoke to...
You're so lucky.
Yep, you can hear it. You can hear it. All right. It's hard to mix with the crowd in there, so... All right, let's see what we got.
Flora spoke to herself in her mind, watching as Callie walked off with her usual prissy strut. Callie walked off
Okay, that's hooves.
with her usual prissy strut. She wanted to tend to her injury, but the closest bathroom was nowhere close by, and she knew the staff wouldn't even do shit about it. So she just took her leave out into the school's courtyard.
I see. Okay, took her leave out into the school's courtyard, so I need to...
Her leave out into the school's courtyard.
Okay, so what I need to do...
Her leave out into the school...
is get another volume. Took her leave out into the school courtyard. Okay, so this is going to be slightly tricky.
Her leave out into the school's courtyard.
This is going to be like a crossfade thing going on. Alright, shut this up. I don't think I need this for the rest. Oh, maybe I do, but not as high of as an intensity.
Her leave out into the school's courtyard. She just wanted to get home and forget about what had just her leave out into the school.
Took her leave out to the school's courtyard. Okay, so I need 2 things here. Walking.
Her leave out into the school's courtyard. She just
Okay. And now I need the sound of spring. Oh, okay, I'm on 12. Let's sample. Morning in the spring. Or the forest. Alright. There would be a little bit of chatter in the background because it's still kids. Trust me, I went to high school. I know how chatty adolescents are, especially when they get out of school. Oops. I don't want to open local. Okay, I didn't do anything bad, did I? No, thank God. Okay. So I'm probably gonna have to use the balancer here. It's usually around 11 dB with a decrease there as well. Okay. So I need to crossfade this.
her leave out into the school's courtyard. She just wanted to get
Okay. Faster than that. Come on. Oh, you ignorant fuck. Alright, faster than that. Then grab this, pull this back.
so she just took her leave out into the school's courtyard. She just wanted to get home.
Okay. The crowd talk would still be there, but I don't know how to.
So she just took her leave out into the school's courtyard. She just wanted to get home and forget about what had just happened. But just as she started to approach the perimeter of the end of the school's property, she thought back to lunch.
What is that?
The mayor, another dirty prank by Callie and her.
Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. Okay, the crowd talking sound effect actually can be modified here. So what I need to do is get that back into place. So about right there. And then I need to actually crowd talking sound effect. Just lower this to a lower degree. Copy value. Probably gonna have to be lower than this paste value.
Another dirty.
All right. I'll get it. It's just gonna take time.
So she just took her leave out into the school's courtyard. She just wanted to get home and forget about what had just happened. But just as she started to approach the perimeter.
Yeah, it don't work. So I'm probably just gonna have to bite the bullet here. It's kind of hard to mimic that sound. Here, there, I'd have to use like a different sound. And I don't know if I even have a sound for that.
So she just took her leave out into the school's courtyard. She just wanted to get home and forget about what had just happened. But just as she started to approach the perimeter of the end of the school's property, she thought back to lunch.
Approach.
The mayor, aka Sarah, had given her a free invite to a potential friendship.
Oh,
but
I see. Okay. I need the single walk again, but this time, oh, I can just make unique. Oops. Oh my God, please and thank you. There we go. Okay, make unique as a sample. Then I need to go here again. That's the one. 13, I think, is what we're on. Well, let's find out. Yep. Alright, so I need a limiter first. And no reverb.
So she just took her leave out into the school's courtyard. She just wanted to get home and forget about what had just happened. But just as she started...
Okay, needs to be about right here somewhere.
So she just took her leave out into the school's courtyard. She just wanted to get home and forget about what had just happened. But just as she started to approach the perimeter of the end of the school's property, she thought back to lunch. But just as she started to approach the perimeter of the end of the school's property, she thought back to lunch. The mayor, aka Sarah, had given her a free invite to a potential friendship, but every instinct and the butterflies in her stomach were telling her otherwise. Her paranoia told her it was a trap. Another dirty prank by Callie and her little sluts that kissed her ass so much just to stand by her side. However, the more Flora thought about it, the more her suspicion of this Sarah being another one of Callie's followers dissipated. Unless Sarah was a great actor, everything she had said sounded real, and she hadn't lied, seeing her left eye was fake. Not to mention, Callie's little gremlins were terrible actors, and always had a hint of fakeness to their schemes. Sarah had felt legitimate. She was kicking herself in her conflict, but given there was a chance to escape her guilt and inner war with herself, she reluctantly turned back around and started for the football field. It wasn't a far trot, the football field being just off to the side of the school's right exit, and in no more than 5 minutes, she was at the back side of the bleachers. The entrance to the field was less than an inch from her, but she had stopped to think twice about this whole idea. However, her stubborn attitude and will to want to escape her personal limbo was enough to break her barrier of paranoia and caution, trotting onward and through the entrance of the football field. She had never attended any of the games. Paranoia and caution, trotting onward and through the entrance of the football field.
That's a little fuck up.
She had never attended any of the games in her little time at Ponyville High, so seeing the field was actually an astonishing sight for Flora. But her sights were quickly averted to the middle of the field, where a pair of ponies stood in conversation. One of them she recognized as the main mare who had accompanied her at lunch earlier, while the second was more of a stranger. He was a tall, stock, and clearly attractive stallion, his mane done in a 50s greaser-style fashion. He wore a clearly expensive black leather jacket, had light brown fur, sky blue eyes, and a slick, well-kempt mane. Even Flora couldn't deny that she had been slightly aroused at the sight of him, but that was the last thing on her mind as she approached. Feeling certainly intimidated and uncomfortable. Sarah caught sight of her first, and a smile adorned her face in her success of convincing Flora to join her and John Doe after school.
Well, well, looks like you made it after all. Oh shit, what happened to your nose?
Flora jumped, having forgotten about her little tussle with Callie.
It's nothing. Just a casual, everyday injury in this place.
There's nothing casual about a bloody and bruised nose. Trev, do you have anything to clean her up?
Yeah, the stallion said, reaching into an inner pocket of his jacket and pulling out a white handkerchief. Here you go. Sarah took the cloth and handed it out to Flora, to which Flora rejected.
It's nothing. No need to bloody up.
Either you take it, or I wipe it.
Sarah interjected, causing Flora to realize that she was serious. Reluctantly, she just listened and took the handkerchief, wiping away the dried blood outside her nostrils and continuing to hold the cloth to her swollen nose. Flora jerked at the touch to her injury, which the stock stallion caught and obliged to. Hey, Sarah?
Yeah?
Mind keeping her company for, say, 5 minutes?
Sure. But why?
I gotta go inside to get something for that nasty injury.
Oh, go ahead then.
Guys, really, this is nothing. Ouch!
It's okay.
Yeah, I beg to differ. Just sit tight. I know the perfect way to fix your injury. With that, he turned back to the school and ran off in a trot.
Oh, ran off. Okay, so we need the running sound effect now. This is 14, right? Yeah, I believe so. Yep, we're on 14. Load simple. That'd be under the MLP sound effects. Oh my god, my back is fucking soaked. Part 1, part 2. Is this it? Yes. You'd think using these sound effects I would know this by now, but no, I don't. It's right here, isn't it? The fuck? Oh.
That, he turned back.
Okay. Now we need to go to 14. Perfect. Limiter. Bang, bang.
That, he turned back to the school and ran.
Okay. Now what I need to do is I need to turn down the intensity.
That, he turned back to the school and ran off in a trot.
Okay. This is gonna be tricky.
That, he turned back to the school and ran.
Okay, I need to zoom in. Yep. Alright. With that, he turned and trotted. So, right here.
That, he turned back to the school and ran off in a trot.
Okay. Turned back to school and ran off in a trot.
That,
Let's see if this might work.
That, he turned back to the school and ran off in a trot. Flora grumbled at the unnecessary action.
Alright. Grab that and push this out just a little bit so that it has some room to, yeah.
That, he turned back to the school and ran off in a trot. Flora grumbled at the unnecessary action,
There
but
we go.
knew he wouldn't listen, so she just stayed put.
Just trust him. He knows what he's doing.
Flora just grumbled, unintentionally snorting in the process, something she hadn't done since she was a filly. 5 minutes later, the stallion returned in a hasty trot, carrying
Hasty trot, so that's another run.
Stallion returned in a hasty trot.
Okay, hang on. Let me get that correct.
5 minutes later, the stallion returned in a hasty trot.
A little further forward.
5 minutes later, the stallion returned in a hasty trot, carrying something like a bag in his lip. 5 minutes later, the stallion returned in a hasty trot, carrying something like a bag in his lips. Upon stopping and presenting his baggage resting 5 minutes later, the stallion returned in a hasty trot, carrying something like a bag in his lips. Upon stop 5 minutes later, the stallion returned in a hasty trot, carrying something like a bag in his lips.
There we go.
Upon stopping and presenting his baggage resting between his lips, it was found to be a bag of frozen peas, to which Flora expressed a confused expression. Had he gotten these from the cafeteria fridge? He motioned for Flora to take the bag of the frozen vegetables, and knowing she had no choice, just took it. Rest that against your nose. Trust me, it'll help with your pain and swelling. Flora just listened and placed the ice-cold baggage against her swollen nose, and upon the contact with her skin, she winced. However, after a few seconds, her flesh adapted to the temperature, and she just allowed this odd form of medicine for her nose to do its job.
Well, I guess now is as good a time as any to introduce you to Trevor. You may already know him, seeing he is our school's main quarterback, and apparently a doctor.
Nah, This is just standard procedure for things like swelling in the locker room whenever.
Introduce you to Trevor. You may already know him, seeing he is our school's main quarterback, and apparently a doctor.
Nah. This is just standard procedure for things like swelling in the locker room whenever one of the players on the team gets hurt. Remember, I was a medical assistant on the team before I even played the field.
This is new news to me.
Anyways, it's very nice to meet you, Flora. He greeted, holding his hoof out to shake. Not wanting to be rude, Flora answered by shaking his hoof in return, bewildered by his politeness, but something else caught her attention as well.
How do you know my name?
Oh, hang on. I hear something.
How do you know?
As well.
How do you know my name?
Where is that? Ah, okay. It's not within the main. It's not within like the main area of like the text or text audio. Sorry, I'm a writer and a audio producer.
How do you know my name?
As well.
How do you know my name?
Ah, I'm very well acquainted with every student of our school, seeing I'm in the yearbook club and organize things like names and such. Flora nodded, returning her hoof to the surface of the football field.
It's nice to meet you too, Trevor. However, I can't help but be surprised at how... It's nice to meet you too, Trevor. It's nice...
Okay, hang on. I heard something. More air bubbles that I missed? Yep, right there. See if that works.
Field.
It's nice to meet you too, Trevor. However, I can't help but be surprised at how polite and generous you're being. I thought that jocks were supposed to be full of themselves and careless.
And you'd be right. But that's not the case with me. My teammates are egomaniacs and carefree bastards that basically have slept with all of the popular mayors in this school. Caught a few in the act even, and immediately reported it like a good jock should. Unlike them, I actually have a life outside of sleeping with mayors and pretending I'm a god when I know full well I'm not. You see, it's kind of part of the reason we wanted to convince you here. Sarah immediately followed up with an explanation for Trevor's reasoning of actually having his head on his shoulders.
Trevor had some skeletons in his closet that he cleaned out after he nearly killed himself one night. His parents are heavy drug addicts that somehow convinced the system to let them keep him in their custody after, due to their influence, Trevor became an addict himself when he was only 11.
Flora gasped, causing her to wince at accidentally aggravating her injury in the process. Trevor followed up with a nod and rolling up one of his jacket's sleeves, revealing an array of scars that lined his entire arm. Now Flora knew this was no ploy by bitchy Callie. This was legitimately two ponies with dark pasts and shared demons in one form or the other.
Okay.
As a teenager, you get curious about things. And when you see your parents doing lines and they call it amazing or exhilarating, it doesn't seem dangerous or even hazardous to your health. That was my case, doing my first one behind my parents' backs at age 11.
Okay.
After the first one, I had only wanted more and eventually
Okay, what music goes here? Good question. Hello, Aria. I'm doing okay. Alright, I need to figure out, like, what's a... Silent Hill would be perfect here, but... Fuck it, I'll do it. Silent Hill's just too good for this shit, man. What's the name of that goddamn track? Reprise? Something like that. Silent Hill. Letters. Dark version. Silent Night. Letters. Oh, what's the name of that damn track? I know it starts with an R. Ow. It's like Reprise or something like that. Reversion. Rise and Fall. Rusty Gate. God, I know I have it too. I just don't know where. What does this one sound like again? Letting the R's. Let's see, Rise and Fall, Rise and Fall. RS, RS. Ooh, one of those actually might work. Hang on. What does this one sound like going on? Da, 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 da. Promise, there it is, there it is. But then again, what was the one I just had in my damn mind? Let's just see what this sounds like. This is too good to not put here. Promise, like, Silent Hill has the perfect tracks for something like this. Maybe I was thinking something else with Reprise. I know there's a Silent Hill track like that, though. I know there is. Okay, 15. Let's go turn that volume down.
After the first one, I had only wanted more and eventually ended up on the wrong side of Ponyville. Lines weren't enough eventually, and I had started to start other things. Pain pills, razor blades, cigarettes, alcohol. I was killing my body before a cult or Philly should even know what the hell drugs are. I thought I was invincible, up until the night I shot up with some shady friend that gave me what I wanted for a good sum of bits. The needle doesn't hurt when you crave the drive of that high, and that's all I had cared about, up until I started to get dizzy, my heart rate raised so high that it became painful, and my body went as limp as a cooked noodle. That was the point of no return. But Princess Flare was looking out for me that day, because out of that limp state, I found the strength to save myself. It was like climbing a steep and slippery mountain with no climbing gear in the middle of the worst rainstorm imaginable, but I found a phone, called the police, and just before I actually died, got enough info through to them to find me and save me. It took 3 shots of adrenaline to bring me back, but my friend wasn't so lucky. He didn't make it up the mountain with me, and fell seconds after he injected that poison.
Hang on.
That was the moment, but my friend wasn't so lucky. He to bring me back, but my friend...
That needs more space.
to bring me back, but my friend wasn't so lucky. He didn't make it up the mountain with me, and fell seconds after he injected that poison. That was the moment I knew that I wasn't invincible and swore to never do anything like I did ever again. So, I got clean and have been sober for over a year. I would be lying if I said I never had the urge to go back, but I've stayed strong, despite having to live with it, seeing my parents somehow cheated the system.
Flora was blown away at Trevor's story about him managing to escape assured death and kicking his old habits to better his life.
Excuse me.
It carried that same effect that she'd experienced when Sarah had told her story at lunch. Raw and unadulterated emotion that spoke truth. That was enough for Flora to know that these lucid tales of survival and second chances at life were true word for word. She had been convinced enough to drop any insecurities she may have had at her arrival, and knew now that Sarah and Trevor related to her current predicament.
Now, while we spoken our tales, know that we are not
Okay, needs to be lower. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's just, yeah, life could be better. Let's see. Balancer. It is a little too noisy.
Now, while we've spoken our tales, know that we are not expecting you to tell us yours, Flora. You can tell us whenever you're ready, and only then. Just from looking at you, Trev and I know that whatever happened wasn't light, and we hope that we can help you to heal and see beyond your guilt and paranoia.
Yeah, and everything said between us stays between us. We aren't like Callie Stirrup and her little band of gremlins. I just wish to give your life back that was taken by whatever took it in your past. For the first time in a very long time, Flora finally smiled, knowing this wasn't false hope being fed in your past. For the first time in a very long time, Flora finally smiled, knowing this wasn't false hope being fed to her. These two were really here to help her, and they understood her completely. From out of the dark void and into the light, Flora finally blossomed with a single pair of words.
Thank you.
She spoke softly, happy emotions staining her tone. Sarah and Trevor smiled as well, nodding their heads as confirmation. Now, as our first act of friendship, allow me to treat you lovely ladies to a free ice cream at Sugar Cube Corner.
I would kindly accept, except for the fact that Mom usually expects me home in about 20 minutes.
Hang on.
Trevor.
I would kindly.
I hear that. I hear that. And no. You are not gotten onto my other, so fuck off, please.
Corner.
I would kindly accept, except for the fact that Mom usually expects me home in about 20 minutes.
Trevor shook his head. No matter. You can call her from the shop. I'm sure she'll be happy that you made some new friends. Flora usually would have still rejected the offer, but nothing seemed bad about the idea. Free ice cream, a chance to break from the norm, and the fact that Trevor was right about the last part of his statement. Her mom had been trying for years to get her to make friends, and here was the opportunity.
Okay.
With that, the trio started their way off the field, in the direction of the sweet shop that had been known as Ponyville's best for decades, Sugar Cube Corner.
That's nuts. How that ends so fucking on point. Oh wow, that's actually...
The delightful smell of an assortment of sweet delicacies filled the vacant space of Sugar Cube.
What the heck? How did I get that so perfect? Like, note for note. Okay, yeah, just push this out.
Corner.
I would kindly accept, except for the fact that Mom usually.
Sugar Cube Corner.
Okay. About right here, I'd say. Okay, so this would be a very light, like speaking in the background. We can technically go with... where is it? Seriously, where is it? Could go something like this. Oh. Making use of Sapa. No, that's not what I need. This. Except it needs to be very quiet. Okay. Okay. Let me figure out where we're going with here.
The delightful smell of an assortment of sweet delicacies filled the vacant space of Sugar Cube Corner as
Okay, it wouldn't be that noisy, so we need to turn this down. Alright, so for that, go back here real quick. Am I nervous about my foot surgery? I mean, who wouldn't be nervous about about any surgery, right? Alright, let's see.
the delightful smell of an assortment of sweet delicacies filled the vacant space of Sugar Cube Corner.
Vacant. Vacant. Ooh, then what would be the ambient? Oh wait, vacant means open. Yeah, it means vacant. It means open. So, what would be the ambience of a sweet shop besides people talking? Hi, Thomas. Hello, Thomas. Alright, what I need to do is figure out what I'm going to do for ambience here. What would a sweet shop? Like, what's the ambience of like a burger joint or like an ice cream shop? That's a good question. Not too sure. I can imagine like a radio playing like some old tunes. Like, do I have any tracks that would fit that category? That's actually a good question. Wait a minute. I guess I could put like maybe Prince Whatever in the background just for fun. I did that in the other one. Why the hell not? It'd be fun. Oh, it's fucking hot in here. Thomas, don't you dare. Alright, so that'd be on 16. Thank you. That's simple. Prince Whatever, Prince Whatever. Yeah, we'll just go with heavy metal because why the fuck not? Do I have any of the Prince Whatever tracks on here? Fizz War, Silent Hill. The problem is, Thomas, it says vacant space, meaning it's empty. So I'm trying to figure out, what the hell would it sound like if it's vacant? There'd be like music playing, right? What's a good Prince Whatever track to put here? Like a light track. What's a light track by him that I like a lot? Not Letting Go, that's a good one. Remember Me, that's a good one. There's a lot of good tracks that I could get from him, as long as I just give credit. I did do this for the last one, so it would make sense to do it. Plus, I just like giving him awareness because he's a really good dude. Solidarity would work. I mean, okay, I need to figure out where I'm going here. Will they remember you when you did hang on? I'm probably gonna need maybe up to 2 tracks. No, I wouldn't, because it goes into them talking about the place, Berkshire Up Lakers. Yes, this is Friends and Secrets. It's fucking hot in here. No. Elemental reimagine. Prince. What? Stabilize, frailty, spare me. Spare me's a fun one. The fuck? No. Fuck off. Ugh. YouTube, why are you going slow? Also, why? Okay. This is gonna take some work, but not that difficult. I'm gonna need... trying to think of all the sound effects I'm gonna need here. Okay, what I need to do now is go to Google, YouTube, MP3 downloader. Because I did this for part 1, I put Nightmare Night in the background. Convert. As long as I give credit, should be fine. Download. Get out of here with your stupid virus. Okay, it's downloading. Cool. Alright. Go to my downloads. That's the one. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, that scared me. Alright, 16. Alright, so what I need to do there is I need to turn down the volume a lot because it's gonna be loud. Forgot that that was even still his intro in this track. Then I need to give it a certain EQ. Let's see, radio. Okay, this is going to be interesting. Alright, so I have to cut that. Okay, still a little too stereo. Okay, so it needs to be lower. Can't be very, like, surround sound. It has to... Okay, hang on. Let me see... Play that.
The delightful smell of an assortment of sweet delicacies filled the vacant space of Sugar Cube Corner as Flora and Sarah sat in wait for their free treats. Flora had gone simple and ordered a lighter treat named Fireworks Swirl, while Trevor and Sarah had gotten their usuals with a much higher price tag. This was actually Flora's first time ever coming to Sugar Cube Corner, so she had no idea what was good and bad on the massive menu. She'd heard around school that it was the best place to go for anyone with a sweet tooth, and Flora was one with a massive craving for sweet treats, but her introverted nature had made her sweet tooth dwindle over time. This would be her first real sugary concoction in a long while, and she was slightly nervous.
Never had Sugar Cube.
Okay. This is gonna be tricky as fuck. I'm gonna have to go probably more to the middle of the track. Something like... We're in this together. Okay. I remember doing this with the other one was a tricky motherfucker. So... Automate volume.
The delightful smell of an assortment of sweet delicacies filled the vacant space of Sugar Cube Corner as Flora and Sarah sat in wait for the...
Okay. I need to cut this down more. We'll go something like, I don't know, that. Actually, hang on. I think I know what I want. We need to go to, like, the middle area of the track. So let's say about, this looks like the course.
She'd heard around school that it was the best place to go for anyone with a sweet tooth. And Flora was...
Alright. Let's see about right here. I like doing these little Easter eggs. Okay, just cut that for now. I need to figure out where I'm going here. What the fuck? No. Oh, fuck. I oopsied. Oh, crud. Uh-oh, what did I do? Oh, cool. I fucked up. It's okay, it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. I just gotta go something like this. I accidentally deleted the rest of the track because I put the print whatever track on top. Not that big of a deal. There's not really much left. So, shouldn't be that big of a deal, right? Right? Alright, let's see what we got here. Alright. Figure out where we're going here. Alright. Is this it? Probably. Alright. Push this out a little bit. Okay. Oh no, I need that for this. Where was that? About right here? Automate volume. Alright, so what I need to do is figure things out first. Wait, why did I do that? Okay. This has to come back more. Yeah, why did I do that? Hello? Hello? Oh, for the love of God. Okay, hopefully this is just right. Still needs to be lower though. Okay. Okay, the balancer still needs... I think I know what I need to do. I need another piece of ambience here. No doubt about that. It could mean so much to me. Let's do like a panning effect. Panamatic. Go something like to the right. So bittersweet. Never imagined what we started could mean so much to me. Reverb. I also need to do that as well. Okay, let's bring this down to about 10 for a start.
The delightful smell of an assortment of sweet delicacies.
It's a little too low, honestly.
The delightful smell of an assortment of sweet delicacies filled the vacant space of Sugar Cube Corner as Flora and Sarah sat in wait for their free treats. Flora.
Okay. That's a decent volume, but now I need some kind of ambience. And I'm not really sure what kind of ambience works as a shop. No, Aria, you were fine. Trust me, we've had weirder. Okay, let's see. I need to... Will there be a till sound effect? I don't know what you're talking about, Thomas. Okay. There's got to be something that I have that works here. Let's see. The clock wouldn't work. What do you hear when you go into, like, a restaurant? Like a fast food place? A lot of things. Would the library one work? Maybe the library one might work. The one that I used in a process of elimination. That's not what I'm looking for. Either that or... I don't know. I don't know. Da, 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 da. Ow. Library. Oops. I've got to have something. Of course. This would be the one thing that would slow me down. The only other thing that I can think of. The only thing I can think of here that works is the crowd sound effect. That's all that comes to my mind. Like a really, really low copy of it. So I think that's the best thing I can do. Even if it says it's vacant. Let's go. We're gonna make that unique as this. No, I don't actually have to do that. Volume. Alright, let's go. Something like that. Lower this a shit ton. Oh. The heck? Is it too low? Some sound effects do this. Yeah, it needs to be a little bit louder. Da, 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 da.
The delightful smell of an assortment.
Okay. Has to be like instant. Okay, something has to come in first. So we need, like I said, this is just a process of slow but sure. Picking up on what goes first, what goes second, what works where, and what works and what doesn't work where. Okay, I need the thingamajiggy. This. Can I get that some more fade in?
The delightful smell of an assortment of sweet delicacies filled the vacant space of Sugar Cube Corner as Flora and Sarah sat in wait for their free treats. The delightful smell of an assortment of sweet delicacies filled the vacant space of Sugar Cube Corner as Flora and Sarah sat in wait for their free treats. Flora had gone simple and ordered a lighter treat. The delightful smell of an assortment of sweet delicacies filled the vacant space of Sugar Cube Corner as
That
Flora
works.
and Sarah sat in wait for their free treats.
Copy value.
Flora had gone simple and ordered a lighter treat named Fireworks Swirl, while Trevor and Sarah had gotten their usuals with a much higher price tag. This was actually Flora's first time ever coming to Sugar Cube Corner, so she had no idea what was good and bad on the massive menu. She'd heard around school that it was the best place to go for anyone with a sweet tooth, and Flora was one with a massive craving for sweet treats, but her introverted nature had made her sweet tooth dwindle over time. This would be her first real sugary concoction in a long while, and she was slightly nervous.
Never had Sugar Cube Corner before?
Flora shook her head, to which Sarah winced at, similar to when you get surprised or confused.
Damn, girl. We seriously are going to have to work hard to get you more acquainted with the entirety Ponyville has to offer.
Flora blushed, a sheepish smile meeting her face.
How's your nose, by the way?
Still a little sore, but the peas really took down the majority of the swelling. It looks like you were right about him.
I've known Trev for a while, and he's one to even overreact to the smallest of wounds. One time, I barely scraped my knee when I fell off my bike, and freaked out so much that he ran back to his house to get a band-aid. We were miles from his house, and my scrape wasn't even bad enough to draw blood, so it just goes to show how much he cares about his friends, as much as any pony for that matter.
Sounds like losing his friend to the stuff actually messed him up more than he thinks.
While he claims they weren't a close friend or anything, I think there were some ponies he cared about dearly. That's why I just let him get the band-aid that day, because I know it's a coping mechanism, and if he's happy, I'm happy.
The conversation was interrupted by Trevor, approaching the table quickly with the array of sweet treats provided by Trevor's generosity. Laying the tray carefully upon the table's surface, he addressed Flora.
Shop owner said you can use the phone, so go ahead and call your mom.
Flora nodded, getting up from her seat and walking to the counter.
Walking to the counter, so that would be a single walk.
Walking to the counter.
Oop, wrong one. Wrong one.
Walking to the counter. At the counter were three things: the cash register, a bell, and the owner of the establishment. She wore a white apron, baker's hat, and had a joyous demeanor to her that radiated the atmosphere of the shop like a contagious sickness.
You must be Flora, right?
Jesus.
She spoke with a high voice that matched every bit of her features. The mare had light blue fur, a dark blue overly curly mane, and magenta eyes that pierced Flora's soul. From her name tag, Flora knew her name was Blueberry Pie, which fit her perfectly. Blueberry turned from her briefly to grab and slide the shop phone from behind the counter, allowing Flora to dial her home phone number. With a simple dial and 2 rings, Flora had her mother on the line.
Hello?
Hey, Mom.
Flora? Where are you? You had me worried.
I know. Sorry, but I'm fine. I'm with some new friends at Sugar Cube Corner. One of them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see why I was getting loud. Oh, oops. Rupshy-doodle. God damn it. Okay, what I need to do is get this thing because I forgot to copy and paste the values. Copy value. I'm gonna need another track. Okay, let's cut that back. Alright, shut this up. What? Oh. Okay, paste value. That should be every one of them. Okay, I'm gonna need another track. La la la. Da, 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 da. I guess we could just go fight this war. Why the f not? Definitely not what you'd hear in a space like that, but who cares? Who cares? Put it on the same track as well, because we want the same exact effects. Oops. 16, right? Yeah. Oh. That's the one. Hopefully no volume issues are going on with this one. I don't think so, but oops. Okay, get rid of that first thing.
And walking to the counter. At the counter were 3 things: the cash register, a bell, and the owner of the establishment. She wore a white apron, baker's hat, which fit her perfectly. Blueberry turned from her briefly to grab and slide the shop phone from behind the counter, allowing Flora to dial her home phone number. With a simple dial and 2 rings, Flora had her mother on the line.
Hello?
Hey, Mom.
Flora? Where are you? You had me worried.
I know. Sorry, but I'm fine. I'm with some new friends at Sugar Cube Corner. One of them offered to take me here for some ice cream, so I accepted after they promised to let me call you.
That's fantastic. I'm so glad to hear that, sweetie. However, when do you think you'll be home?
If I had to guess, probably an hour or so. Sugar Cube Corner doesn't fully around when it comes to quality.
Sounds like you're having fun. Are they school friends?
Yeah, I just met them today, and they weren't one of Callie's cohorts.
I'm so glad to hear that, honey. This is what you need, so please give it a chance.
Don't worry, Mom. These 2 actually seem real, and not just other fake friends.
That's good. All I ask is that you be home before dark, okay?
I will.
Alright, dear. Have fun, and I love you.
Love you too, Mom.
Bye.
Bye.
With that, Flora hung up and allowed Blueberry to take the phone back behind the counter. After that, she walked back to the table and took her seat.
Walk back.
Noticing the she walked back to
Walk back. Walk back. Where is the walking sound effect? Also, Arya, don't worry about it.
She walked back to the table and took her seat, noticing the gargantuan ice cream cone before her that extended easily 5 or 6 inches from the cone's top base. Flora had no clue where to begin, so she used a provided spoon to start from the very top, taking the bite into her mouth. Upon the cold sweet hitting her tongue, her eyes bulged at the taste. It was a mix of layered flavors, starting with cherry, then mixing with a blueberry, a sweet orange, banana, green apple, and lastly, a grape. But that wasn't it. After the fluctuation of separate flavors, she suddenly started to feel a mild tickling sensation on her tongue, and only until she opened her mouth did she hear what it was. A sizzling sound escaped her mouth, and mixed with what it was. A sizzling sound escaped her mouth, until she opened her mouth did she
Opened her mouth. Basically, Pop Rocks. If you don't know what that is, then you're probably not American. I think they're called something else in the UK. But Pop Rocks are basically those rock candies that you put in your mouth and it creates like a sizzling sound on your tongue. So I'm probably going to need a little sound effect for that. I feel like it's kind of something that's appropriate, I guess you could say. Are we on 18 or are we on 17? I actually don't know. Yes, actually I started watching high school, then it grew more on me. I'm a sucker for good stories and amazing voice. That's what pulled me on. Well, I appreciate that. What am I looking for? I'm looking for a sizzling sound effect. It's like bacon or something like that. Sizzling bacon sound effect, perfect. It's definitely gonna have to not be a loud sound, it's gonna be pretty mild.
until she opened her mouth did she hear what it was.
Okay. A little too aggressive, so we need to kind of turn that down. Even though Pop Rocks are actually pretty fucking loud.
Until she opened her mouth did she hear what it was. A sizzling sound escaped her mouth, and mixed with an array of flavors as if fireworks were going off in her mouth. Now,
Okay. I actually think there's a treat like this in reality. I really do.
until she opened her mouth did she hear what it was. A sizzling sound escaped her mouth, and mixed with an array of flavors.
Okay. It gets a little too, like, sizzly right there, so I need to just kind of loop this. Let's see what we can do. That's what this is all about. Just about being very crafty.
Until she opened her mouth did she hear what it was. A
Really?
sizzling sound escaped her mouth, and mixed with an array of flavors as if fireworks were going off in her mouth. Now she knew where.
Okay. I think we just copy paste, copy paste, copy paste.
Until she opened her mouth did she hear what it was. A sizzling sound escaped her mouth, and mixed with an array of flavors as if fireworks were going off in her mouth. Now she knew where the name came from, and she was loving the experience permeating her entire oral cavity.
Does it ever say that she swallows it?
I'd say that's a fitting reaction to that specific treat. Quite an explosive experience.
That's what she said, Sarah. Stop. Stop. Alright. Let's just kind of, let's say make unique as a 7. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Volume. Give this a little bit of a fade out.
Until she opened her mouth did she hear what it was. A sizzling sound escaped her mouth, and mixed with an array of flavors as if fireworks were going off in her mouth.
It's like sparklers.
Now she knew where the name came from, and she was loving the experience permeating her entire oral cavity.
I'd say that's a fitting reaction to that specific treat.
Okay, the fade out goes a little too long. Let's kind of shorten that.
Knew where the name came from, and she was loving the experience permeating her entire oral cavity.
I'd say that's a fitting reaction to that specific treat. Quite an explosive experience.
Must be your first try. I acted the same way when I got that for the first time. The sizzle stops after a minute or so. No need to worry. Flora nodded, downing the mixture and giving herself a second before going in.
Downing the mixture. Okay, so she does swallow it.
I got that for the first time. The sizzle stops after a minute or so before going into the sweet again. The mixture and giving herself a second.
Swallowing the mixture. Okay, that's when it would fade out. Ahem. Somewhere about right there. Okay, sizzling sound effect again. Fucker, stop it. Okay, just copy paste, copy paste. Could you please go fuck yourself? One more time. You're asking for it. Okay. One step at a time. All this for a little sound effect. One at a time. Ow. Okay, let's see if we can.
Until she opened her mouth, did she hear what it was. A sizzling sound escaped her mouth and mixed with an array of flavors as if fireworks were going off in her mouth. Now she knew where the name came from, and she was loving the experience permeating her entire oral cavity.
I'd say that's a fitting reaction to that specific treat. Quite an explosive experience.
Must be your first try. I acted the same way when I got that for the first time. The sizzle stops after a minute or so. No need to worry. Flora nodded, downing the mixture and giving herself a second before going into the sweet again.
That's fine.
Did you know that that tree got its name from the Pegasus who did the sonic rainbow? What was her name again?
Oh, you mean Rainbow Dash.
Yeah, that's her. Kind of a weird name to give it. Don't you think it would be called something more fitting like the Rainbow or Dashing Delight?
That would make a lot more sense, but Pinkie Pie didn't name it, so maybe it was done by request.
Excuse me.
Laura winced at the mentioning of the name and the fact that it ended with pie.
By any chance, did this Pinkie have anything to do with the shop?
Yep. She used to work here, back before it happened. Flora's curiosity instantly
Oops.
spiked. Trevor was leaving something out.
Stop!
Something important.
Before what happened?
Trevor averted his gaze to Sarah, as if he were needing permission or something. Should we tell her?
Why not? As long as we keep our voices low, we should be fine.
With a sigh, Trevor returned his gaze to Flora's, waving his hoof to direct her closer to him. Flora didn't object. She just followed and joined Trevor and Sarah in the privacy of the middle of the table. You ever heard of the Apple Family Massacre? Flora shook her head as an answer, allowing Trevor to continue.
Okay. I need one more track. Do I just go Nightmare Night just so I don't have to go look up another fucking track? Yeah, why not? It's only gonna be there for a flipping second, anyways. All right, let's go. 16. 16. Phase 4. It's Nightmare Night, right? It's called Nightmare Night. I know I have it, I just don't know where. I thought it was under this, but apparently not. Maybe it's under my downloads. Nightmare Night. Remember Me? Oh, I do have some. Okay. Yeah, we'll do Remember Me. Why not? Why the fuck not? Sure, why the hell not? The Starlight song, because nobody likes Starlight. I do.
Object. She just followed and joined Trevor and Sarah in the privacy of the middle of the table. You ever heard of the Apple Family Massacre? Flora shook her head as an answer, allowing Trevor to continue. Before I tell you, you must know that you cannot mention this to any pony, not even your mom. It's a subject that was banned from history by Princess Fleur 2 decades ago, and it's basically an illegal thing to talk about. Flora nodded, intrigued and slightly intimidated at the words.
The fuck?
Flora nodded, intrigued and slightly intimidated at the words. All right. To keep it brief, 20 years ago, this town was practically a pig's pen to a family of serial killers that lived on a farm just outside of Ponyville. It started in secrecy at first, up until the day that the youngest of the family was murdered by the leader of the massacre in cold blood, Bittersweet Applejack. She was a twisted mare who would use fear and desperation as a tactic to seat Applejack.
Can I double track here? Because I really feel like there should be like a dark track underneath this. Ay, caramba, ouch. Where am I? 18. No, 19. Whoa, where am I going? Yeah, 19. Alright, load sample. What fits here? There's a lot of things that fit here. I think it really doesn't matter. Oops. Trying to think here. Bad encounter, maybe? That might work. Okay, 19. Lower that. Let's see, balancer. Start about right there.
She was a twisted mare who would use fear and desperation as a tactic to send the inhabitants of Ponyville to their assured deaths in the slaughterhouse.
Okay.
Blood. Bittersweet Applejack. She was a twisted mare who would use blood. Bittersweet Applejack.
There we go.
She was a twisted mare who would use fear and desperation as a tactic to send the inhabitants of Ponyville to their assured deaths in the slaughterhouse at the farm.
through a grinder that would siphon their blood into this town's only food source at the time, the Apple family's homemade applesauce. However, before the grinder took their lives, the victims would be bound and tortured in sadistic and horrid ways that only the sickest minds could conjure. Some would be tortured for days, while others took weeks or
Hang
even
on.
months. History says that it was the apple's way
What
of
happens if I
tenderizing
do
or
something like
marinating the
this?
blood.
Flora didn't object. She just followed and joined Trevor and Sarah in the privacy of the middle of the table.
This should work.
You ever heard of the Apple family massacre?
Flora shook her head as an answer, allowing Trevor to continue.
Before I tell you,
Yeah, this should
you
work.
must know that you cannot mention this to any pony, not even your mom. It's a subject that was banned from history by Princess Fleur 2 decades ago, and it's basically an illegal thing to talk about.
Flora nodded, intrigued and slightly intimidated at the words.
All right, to keep it brief, 20 years ago, this town was practically a pig's pen to a family of serial killers that lived on a farm just outside of Ponyville. It started in secrecy at first, up until the day that the youngest of the family was murdered by the leader of the massacre in cold blood, Bittersweet Applejack. She was a twisted mare who would use fear and desperation
There
as
we
a
go.
tactic to send the inhabitants of Ponyville to their assured deaths in the slaughterhouse of the farm, through a grinder that would siphon their blood into this town's only food source at the time, the Apple family's homemade applesauce. However, before the grinder took their lives, the victims would be bound and tortured in sadistic and horrid ways that only the sickest minds could conjure. Some would be tortured for days, while others took weeks or even months. History says that it was the apple's way of tenderizing or marinating the blood before it was put into the jars on the assembly line. This lasted 10 years, up until the only survivor to ever escape ended it all. It cost him his front hooves, but he managed to get out and kill that crazy mare by grinding her head off from her shoulders in the process, and he now lives on the far side of town. So if you don't believe me, just go ask him yourself.
Flora gulped, swallowing the saliva that had built up in her mouth over the course of the tale. Could this be real? Trevor hadn't seemed to have been making it up or pulling her leg. It was hard to swallow, but why would Trevor lie?
I assume Pinky was one of the first victims?
Her and the entire group once known as the Main Six, minus Applejack. Blueberry, the owner of this place, is the daughter of a stepsister of Pinky who didn't get caught up in Ponyville during those times. Nobody knows who her mom is. We do know she worked in the mines of Appaloosa during the massacre. Her mom found out after the mine ran out of material, and in her sister's memory took ownership of this place. Sadly, her grief took her to the point of no return, and she shot herself, leaving Blueberry to take over. This place is all Blueberry has, and that's why she holds that smile. But after the fact, she goes to the liquor store, buys a single beverage, and attempts to drink herself to death. She's nearly succeeded 2 times, but the doctors managed to save her.
Flora's gaze averted to the front counter, Blueberry serving a customer with that contagious smile. She had a hard time believing that her smile was merely a mirage to something much more broken behind it. But why would Trevor or Sarah lie about something so grim? She wanted to give Blueberry a hug, but it was none of her business. All she could do was stare at a deep look behind it. But why would Trevor or Sarah lie about something so grim? She
I know the perfect track. What's the name of that one? Collapse. Collapse. Go away. God, I hate that thing. Ever since they added that to fucking Windows, I hate it. Okay, collapse. Collapse. lapse. I know, Thomas, it was just a joke.
She wanted to give Blueberry a hug.
That woke me up. Sorry about that. Sometimes it just
She
slips my
wanted to
mind.
give Blueberry a hug, but it was none of her business. All she could do was stare at a deeply disturbed mare hiding behind a fake smile, and that was what made her the most sad. Once
Okay.
she stopped looking, she returned to her ice cream, the rest of her time in the shop being quiet and bleak.
Okay. Automate volume. Get the crowd.
Her time in the shop being quiet and bleak. After finishing her sweet treat, Laura had parted.
Okay. I was kind of wondering how I was going to do this part because it's really short, so I don't really need to add a whole other section.
Her time in the shop being quiet and bleak. After finishing her sweet treat, her time in the shop being quiet and bleak. After finishing her sweet treat,
That works.
Laura had parted ways with Trevor and Sarah, all of them returning to their respective homes, and upon walking through the door, she saw Lily asleep on the couch, having fallen asleep to the current television program. She had thought about waking Lily up, but decided against it after pondering for a minute. Her mother hadn't slept well in a while, so any amount of sleep was good for her in Flora's eyes. So she just walked past the living room and to her bedroom at the far end of the hall. So she just walked past.
Walked past. About right there. Right here.
Living room and to her bedroom at the far end of the hall to her left. Closing her door, she flicked on her lamp and laid down atop her bed. Closing her door.
Closing her door. I really don't want to have to go get that sound effect. I don't have to. Fuck it.
Closing her door, she flicked on her lamp and laid down atop her bed. She wasn't tired, just had a lot on her mind from all that she had learned. She couldn't believe that something so horrible had happened in the town she now occupied, and her curiosity was only more anxious about what else may have happened during that decade. Eventually, her brain ran out of juice, and unknowingly, she had passed out. That night, she actually dreamed of something other than black space. She dreamed of happy things like Trevor and Sarah, her mother, the hopeful positive future she had hoped to reach, and the sensation of that giant sweet treat she had somehow consumed in Sugar Cube Corner.
Okay.
Somehow consumed in Sugar Cube Corner.
Okay, so this would be a fast.
Cube Corner.
Perfect. Let me listen to that final part one more time, just to be absolutely sure I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the part with, like, her feeling for Blueberry.
Behind it. But why would Trevor or Sarah lie about something so grim? She wanted to give Blueberry a hug, but it was none of her business.
That fits.
All she could do was stare at a deeply disturbed mare hiding behind a big smile, and that was what made her the most sad. Once she stopped looking, she returned to her ice cream, the rest of her time in the shop being quiet and bleak. After finishing her sweet treat, Laura had parted ways with Trevor and Sarah, all of them returning to their respective homes, and upon walking through the door, she saw Lily asleep on the couch, having fallen asleep to the current television program. She had thought about waking Lily up, but decided against it after pondering for a minute. Her mother hadn't slept well in a while, so any amount of sleep was good for her in Flora's eyes, so she just walked past the living room and to her bedroom at the far end of the hall to her left. Closing her door, she flicked on her lamp and laid down atop her bed. She wasn't tired, just had a lot on her mind from all that she had learned. She flicked on her lamp.
Okay, closing her door. That does need to have a sound effect. It's not that big of a deal. Can we please not with this stupid pop-up thing? Pointless crap I don't need. Alright, let's see. Door close and open. Let's see if this might work. Come on.
Closing her door.
Yeah, that works. Do need to give it a limiter though. That and turn it down a lot. Wait, not a balancer, not a balancer. Need a limiter. Okay. Lower the intensity. Keep going.
Closing her door, she flicked on her lamp and laid down atop her bed. She wasn't tired, just had a lot on her mind from all that she had learned. She couldn't believe that something so horrible had happened in the town she now occupied, living room and to her bedroom at the far end of the hall to her left. Closing her door, she flicked on her lamp and laid down atop her bed. She wasn't tired, just had a lot on her mind from all that she had learned. She couldn't believe that something so horrible had happened in the town she now occupied, and her curiosity was only more. She just walked past the living room and to her bedroom at the far end of the hall to her left. Closing her door, she flicked on her lamp. She just walked past the living room and to her bedroom at the far end of the hall to her left. Closing her door,
There
she
we
flicked
go.
on her lamp and laid down atop her bed. She wasn't tired, just had a lot on her mind from all that she had learned. She couldn't believe that something so horrible had happened in the town she now occupied, and her curiosity was only more anxious about what else may have happened during that decade. Eventually, her brain ran out of juice, and unknowingly, she had passed out. That night, she actually dreamed of something other than black space. She dreamed of happy things like Trevor and Sarah, her mother, the hopeful positive future she had hoped to reach, and the sensation of that giant sweet treat she had somehow consumed in Sugar Cube Corner.
The heck? What's still going? Oh, I know what. That was almost a mistake. That was almost a big mistake. Okay. No other weird shit, right? Just double check.
9 years later. Sophomore year in Ponyville High School had been a drag for Flora, having been a prime target for the mean mares of the establishment. She was a quiet and contempt student, unlike the majority of the plethora of adolescents on the curvature of learning whatever the establishment had to offer. Her
Let me
mom
listen
had
to
been
that
trying for years to get her to make friends,
radio effect
and here
again.
was the opportunity.
Okay.
With that, the trio started their way off the field, in the direction of the sweet shop that had been known as Ponyville's best for decades, Sugar Cube Corner.
Just double checking everything to be absolutely sure. I'm happy with
The
that.
delightful smell of an assortment of sweet delicacies filled the vacant space of Sugar Cube Corner as Flora and Sarah sat in wait for their free treat, having brief flashbacks of the night her father.
Name's Sarah, by the way. Come by the football field after school if you want to take my offer. Otherwise, continue living in that shell for the rest of your life.
With that said, Sarah walked off and Flora was left to her thoughts. Flora had no idea how to feel about what had just happened. Was this her opening to a second chance, or some cruel prank arranged by those bitch mares? The only way to find out was to try. Could she even attempt to try? She had until the final school bell to decide.
Good. 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 Oh, I wanted to check the ones that I put on Sarah. Jesus. That woke me up.
The last bell rang loudly as Flora exited her last social studies class. Flora was shocked.
On the bed to explain. However, it was a trap, and as he held me, my mother took a beer bottle to my face, destroying my left eye in the process. Unbelievably, the hit didn't manage to knock.
I think it's good to go. Alright, there's one chapter done. That wasn't actually that bad. That was actually pretty easy. I knew it wouldn't be that bad. It was just the radio part that would be that was the part that stumped me a little bit. Alright, RTBAA to friends. Maybe if I can spell. Friends and secrets. If I can spell. Full mix. Yep. Alright. How long have I been streaming for? I've been streaming for about 2.5 hours. That's not that bad. Good time. I knew this wouldn't be that bad of a chapter because the background was pretty simple. Straight to the point. Henry won't be that bad either because it's the majority of it's in school. Trying to think of everything. I'll do Henry tomorrow. I need to do it tomorrow. There's just no getting around it. Because I want to get this out before Christmas. So, considering everything goes fine tomorrow, I'll do the visuals as well. I've just got to edit the thumbnail a little bit so the names are correct. This is it rendering. I'm gonna check something. Didn't know if you heard, Thomas, but Mark's computer's having a fit again. And this time, it really wasn't his fault. It was something destroyed his RAM. Hence why he hasn't been streaming for the past couple days. It was... Oh, God. Well, the RAM, which is your memory, which means that's the shit that basically says if you can run things or not. Basically, it got somehow, was it one of the sticks or was it two of the sticks? One or two of the sticks got basically destroyed by something. So Mark can't stream. He can use his PC. He just can't stream. So one of the memory sticks was basically fucked. He talked to his mom, and his mom paid for the RAM. He's just going to pay her back. My guess, a power surge. That is my guess because it's the only thing that makes sense. Because Mark did absolutely nothing to his PC to fuck it. So, it wasn't Mark's fault. He just came home one day and it was fucked. So, what do? He talked to the company and told them, you know, basically, I want a replacement because this is bullshit. Let me see. Whoa. Join Carnival. Make sure I spelled that correct. It's that. Off we go. If I can spell. Can I spell, please? Jesus, for the love of God. Get ready. Okay. Yeah, so Mark hasn't been able to stream because Streamlabs is it basically requires a good amount of RAM to run, so yeah, he basically needs to replace his RAM, and hopefully that's the only issue. Cause if there's any other issues, Mark might have to just take his PC to a shop to get it fixed, which is not gonna be cheap. But yep, all I need to do is just do the Henry chapter now, and then it's down to visuals, which is not going to be that difficult. Then we start all over again. Except it's going to be different voice actors this time. Because the next one goes into... Yeah, Sassy's part of things. Sassy? Yeah, her name's Sassy Heartstone, yeah. Goes into the whole gist of how Sassy and Flora met. I just gotta fix the thumbnail. Because there's some names on there of people that aren't even on the project anymore, so... Yeah, we've got some stuff to do. That won't be that bad though. That's just redoing the text. It's not that big of a deal. Now that we're really simplifying it down to not scene for scene like visual effect, it'll go a lot more faster. So yeah, we'll need Sassy's VA, we'll need the dipstick of a fucking director at the asylum, basically. Flora, of course, because she is the main character. And I think just a few, I don't know. Pretzel's still on, right? Yeah, she's one of the main artists. She did the thumbnail, so she does count as a credential. Anybody that was in the last one will be credited because that does count. Anybody who's not on and hasn't contributed will be removed. Otherwise, at that point, it's just basically a shout out. Ow. Then part 3. Yay. I don't know. Part 3 is still in the writing process because I've gotten so wrapped up in other things. Which the next project that I'm planning is non-pony, and it is pretty much my own creation. But I need to write it first. So in other words, I need to hurry my ass up. The joy of being a YouTuber. So much work. Especially when the main epicenter of it basically doesn't have any good content anymore. So yeah, you gotta kind of create your own you gotta create your own stuff. But the next thing I have in mind is non-pony, and it's my own creation basically. It's called Red Hill Academy, and it's literally basically about a murder mystery. Well, it's kind of a vengeance story because, well, it's based around a group of friends. Again, it's gonna sound like it. Based around a group of friends who one of them gets murdered mercilessly, and they don't know who the killer is. So they basically, and this is a very nasty murder. We're talking very nasty. But essentially, the killer was never found, but their lair was. And tons of students were killed. This is a school, by the way. Yeah, students were killed at this school. Essentially, the murders were basically shut down the school, and it goes 30 years later, and basically there's a new clue found, and, well, the group gets back together to hopefully figure out who the killer is. There will be openings for you, Thomas, because you're a great voice actor. Weirdly enough, it's another detective. Don't ask me why. It's just a thing in my stories. Doctors, detectives, like police officers, shit like that. But then again, I think I know why, because it's basically connected to murder. I mean, detectives investigate murders. Doctors, I don't know. Dr. Malcolm was just a thing. Even that ship I have yet to finish its voyage. Some docks are good, some are bad. Yeah, exactly. Dr. Atmosphere wasn't my creation, it was Aurora Dawn's. So, technically, you can't really blame that one on me. Because Dr. Atmosphere is like, one of the main antagonists of the Rainbow Factory series. It was just a thing. And you did great playing Dr. Atmosphere, so there's nothing wrong with that. No. Reborn is a runoff of the Rainbow Factory story. That's different. Rainbow Factory itself, no. I think I played Dr. Atmosphere in the Rainbow Factory reading, if I remember correct. Yes, because I actually enjoyed playing him. He was a lot of fun. Here now, through these doors. Quickly now before encouragement is supplied. He then tases them and forces them through the door. Got a straight up hate comment on Reborn today. Well, it was technically 2 weeks ago. I failed to really look at my my Held for Review comments because I forget about them. I'll be honest. But less to say, it basically said that the ending was horrible because basically they looked at it as justifying the wrongs of like Rainbow Dash and them, like just trying to sugarcoat the killer. I'm like, no. That's not what it interprets at all, you dipstick. The ending represents Rainbow Dash was controlled by someone else. So it wasn't even Dash's fault in the first place. It's a what if ending. Don't think too hard about it. Or Reborn is just a what if story in general. Google Drive. So, I didn't let it bother me too much. I just deleted it and said, you know what, Q. Oh, hey. That was weird. Wait, why ain't I signed in to Google Drive right now? I was about to say. That's weird. Oh, but this is the first time that's happened. Okay, how much storage do I have left? Plenty. Technically, the medication did. That's what controlled Dash. Atmosphere was the one who basically kept her controlled by feeding her the poison. Let's see. If I can spell. Where's home row? There we go. And secrets. There it is. After this, I'm just gonna call it a day. Get some drawing done and stuff. Woke up around 5 o'clock this morning, couldn't go back to fucking sleep. Went back to sleep around 8 o'clock. Got maybe about almost an hour and a half more of sleep because I knew I couldn't do this if I didn't get some more sleep. I usually don't like to wake up around 10 o'clock in the morning, but shit happens, right? But anyways, that's it for today. I think that's a good amount of work for one day. It's one step closer to the final goal. Yay. All that's left is getting Henry done, and then we're gonna do the visuals, and then it's just the upload stage. The fun stage. But anyways, Thomas, and if Ari is there, you too. Thank you two for joining me, and my foot surgery isn't until the 17th, so I'm not too worried about that right this second. It'll be a while before that even happens. But anyways, guys, thanks for joining me, and thanks for keeping me company while I work. And probably expect this to come out probably Christmas Eve. If not, probably Christmas. It all depends on how things go tomorrow. But anyways, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you guys later.